The plane's engines growled like a hungry beast as I buckled into seat 14A, my backpack squished under my feet. It was night, and rain slapped the window, blurring the world outside. The cabin smelled like stale coffee and wet coats, and the lights buzzed, dim and yellowish, making everyone look sick. I was heading to visit my dad, but something felt wrong the second I stepped on board. Like the air was too thick, like it was watching me. A whisper tickled my ear, soft as a spider's leg. "Look at him," it said. I froze. Nobody was talking. The lady next to me was snoring, her head lolling. I glanced around, heart thumping, and my eyes locked on the guy in 13B, across the aisle. He was pale, like he'd never seen the sun, with eyes shining black, like wet stones. He wasn't moving, just staring at the seat in front of him, but I swear he was smiling, a tiny, sharp smile that made my stomach twist. The plane lurched upward, climbing through the storm. The seatbelt sign pinged and the lights flickered. That's when it happened. The guy in 13B leaned over to the sleeping woman beside him, fast as a snake, and bit her neck. Not a nibble, a real bite, like a dog tearing meat. Blood sprayed, red and shiny, splattering the window. She screamed, a wet, gurgling sound, and her hands clawed the air. I ducked low, my heart slamming so hard, I thought it had burst. Her scream stopped. I peeked over the seat, shaking. Her face was changing. Her veins bulged, black as ink, crawling under her skin like worms. Her eyes turned milky and her mouth stretched, teeth growing long and sharp like knives. She hissed, blood dripping down her chin like melted wax. The guy in 13B laughed, a low, awful sound, and his teeth were fangs, too. He wasn't human. He was a vampire. People started screaming. A man in a suit stood up, yelling, "What's happening?" The woman, now a monster, lunged at him, biting his arm. He fell, twitching, blood pooling under him. His skin split, veins popping, and he started to change too, his fingers curling into claws. It was spreading. One bite, and you turned into one of them. I crawled under my seat, squeezing into the tiny space, the carpet scratching my knees. The plane felt like a cage, too small, too dark. Blood dripped from above, warm and sticky, landing on my hand. I gagged, wiping it on my jeans, but it left a red smear like it was alive. Whispers came from the air vents above me, soft and mean. "Join us," they said. "You can't hide." I clapped my hands over my ears, but the voices didn't stop. Were they real, or was I losing my mind? I saw shadows moving, long, twisted shapes that didn't match the people. A flight attendant screamed, then went quiet. Her shoes stuck out from the aisle, twitching, then still. Something wet dragged across the floor, like a body being pulled. I bit my lip to keep from crying out, tasting blood. My hands shook, and for a second, they looked wrong. Too pale, with nails too long. I blinked, and they were normal again. Was I turning? I hadn't been bitten, but what if the air was poisoned? I had to do something. I remembered the oxygen masks. They drop when the air goes bad, right? If I could mess them up, maybe the vampires couldn't breathe. It was a dumb plan, but it was all I had. I crawled toward the galley, a little kitchen at the back, staying low. Blood soaked the carpet, squishing under my palms. A hand grabbed my ankle, cold and slimy. I kicked hard, and it let go, but I heard a hiss close. I didn't look back. The galley was dark, with metal cabinets and a curtain flapping like a ghost. I climbed onto the counter, my sneakers slipping in something wet. The oxygen controls were up high, a panel with wires. I yanked it open, my hand shaking so bad I dropped my flashlight. It rolled, lighting up a corner where a body lay, twisted, with black veins and no eyes, just holes. I screamed, then clapped my hand over my mouth. The whispers got louder, laughing now. "You're ours," they said. I pulled wires, sparking and sizzling, hoping it'd break the masks. The plane shook and the vampires howled, like they knew what I was doing. I slid down, hiding behind a cart, but the curtain moved. A shadow loomed, tall and thin, with glowing eyes. I crouched behind the metal cart in the galley, my breath loud in my ears, like it was screaming for the vampires to find me. The plane's engines rumbled, shaking the floor, and the air smelled like blood and burnt wires. I just ripped out the oxygen mask controls, hoping it'd choke the monsters, but their laughter echoed through the cabin, sharp and cruel, like they didn't need air at all. The curtain in front of me swayed, and I swore it moved on its own, like fingers brushing the fabric. My skin crawled. Were the whispers back, or was it just the wind from the storm outside? The lights flickered, casting shadows that twisted into shapes, long arms, fanged mouths. I blinked hard, but they didn't go away. You're ours. The whispers hissed in the vents, so close I felt breath on my neck. I spun around, but no one was there. My heart pounded, and my hands felt wrong again. Too cold, fingers too long. I held them up, trembling, and for a second, my nails looked black like claws. I shook my head, and they were normal. Was I going crazy? I hadn't been bitten, but the air felt heavy, like it was slipping into my lungs, poisoning me. A scream tore through the plane, not human, wet and gurgling, like someone choking on their own blood. I peeked through a gap in the curtain. The woman from 13B, the one bitten first, wasn't a woman anymore. Her face was a nightmare, mouth stretched wide, teeth like jagged glass. Black veins pulsed under her skin, bulging like worms, and blood dripped from her chin, thick and shiny, like black wax melting off a candle. She grabbed a man trying to run, sinking her fangs into his shoulder. He twitched, his eyes rolling back, and his skin split open, black veins crawling up his neck. He hissed, joining her, his fingers curling into claws. More passengers turned, their bodies twisting, bones cracking loud enough to make me gag. A kid no older than me sat frozen in his seat, staring as his mom's face changed, her jaw unhinging like a snake's. She bit him, and his scream cut off as blood sprayed, staining the seats red. I ducked back, my stomach churning. The plane was a trap, a flying cage with no way out, but the cargo hatch I'd seen earlier. But it was so far, past rows of monsters. The whispers laughed again. "Join us," they said, and I saw my shadow on the galley wall, but it wasn't right. It had fangs, and its eyes glowed red. I stumbled back, hitting a cabinet. A tray fell, clattering, and the noise was like a gunshot. The curtain ripped open, and the vampire from 13B stood there, his pale face smeared with blood. His obsidian eyes locked on me. "You can't hide," he said, his voice like nails on glass. I threw a coffee pot at him, hot liquid splashing his face. He didn't flinch, just smiled, showing fangs that gleamed in the dark. I ran, diving under the cart, crawling toward the back of the plane. Blood soaked the carpet, warm and sticky, and I slid through it, biting my lip to stay quiet. A hand reached down, claws scraping my backpack. I kicked hard and heard a hiss. I didn't look back. The plane tilted, and I slid into a wall, smacking my head. For a second, I saw my dad, his face pale, fangs growing. "You left me," he said, but it wasn't real. It couldn't be. My head throbbed, and the whispers chanted, "You're one of us." I reached the cargo hatch door, a heavy metal thing with a red lever. My hand shook as I grabbed it, but footsteps, too many, came closer. I turned, and the passengers were there, not human anymore. Their faces were wrong, mouths too big, eyes milky. Black wax dripped from their teeth, pooling on the floor. They moved like puppets, jerky and fast, and the vampire from 13B led them, his smile wide. "The air wants you," he said. I yanked the lever, and the hatch groaned. Wind screamed, sucking papers and trays into the dark. The vampires hissed, clawing the walls, but they didn't stop coming. I had to jump, but the parachute was in a locker nearby. I scrambled for it, my fingers slipping in blood. A claw grazed my arm, cold as ice, and I screamed, grabbing the parachute pack. I strapped it on, my hand shaking so bad I could barely clip it. The plane's roar swallowed my scream as I clung to the parachute pack. The cargo hatch so close but feeling miles away. The floor was slick with blood, red and black mixing like oil, and the air stung my lungs, heavy with that sour, rotten smell. The vampires were coming, jerky, twisted shapes with fanged mouths and milky eyes, their claws scraping the walls. The guy from 13B, the first vampire, led them, his pale face glowing under the flickering lights, his smile sharp as broken glass. My arm burned where he'd scratched me, black veins pulsing under my skin like tiny snakes. I wanted to cry, but there was no time. I scrambled back to the galley, my sneakers slipping and dug behind the same metal cart I'd hidden behind before. The curtain flapped like a dying bird, and the whispers were back, louder, clawing inside my head. "You're ours." They hissed from the vents, their voices like wet leaves sliding over each other. I pressed my hands to my ears, but it didn't help. My arm throbbed, and when I looked, the black veins had spread, crawling past my elbow. Was I turning into one of them? I hadn't been bitten, but the scratch felt alive, like it was eating me from the inside. The plane shook, tilting hard, and a tray crashed to the floor, spilling forks and knives. One knife glinted, and for a second, I saw my face in it. My eyes were wrong, glowing red like theirs. I dropped it, heart pounding. It wasn't real, right? Just my mind playing tricks. But the whispers laughed. Look again. I didn't. I couldn't. I curled up tighter. The galley walls closing in, cold and hard like a coffin. The air felt wrong, thick, like it was pressing on my chest, making every breath hurt. A scream, human, not monster, cut through the noise. I peeked out. A girl, maybe my age, was trapped in a seat, her legs stuck under a twisted metal bar. A vampire loomed over her, its face half gone, black wax dripping from its mouth. It bit her neck, and her scream turned to a gurgle. Her body twitched, veins bulging black, her fingers curling into claws. I wanted to help, but my legs wouldn't move. Her eyes met mine, milky now, and she hissed my name. How did she know it? The whispers answered, "We all know you." I gagged, the smell of blood choking me. The galley wasn't safe anymore. The vampires were closer, their claws clicking like bugs on the floor. I crawled toward the cargo hatch again, keeping low, but the plane lurched and I slammed into a cabinet. Something fell, a flight attendant's body, her face frozen in a scream, her throat torn open. Her hands twitched, like she wasn't fully dead, and black veins pulsed in her arms. I scrambled away, my backpack catching on her fingers. They curled, grabbing, and I yanked free, leaving a strap behind. The hatch was right there, but the vampires blocked the aisle, their bodies wrong, too long, too bent, like broken dolls. The guy from 13B tilted his head, sniffing the air. "You can't run," he said, his voice slithering into my ears. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, heavy and cold, and sprayed it at them. White foam hit their faces, and they hissed, clawing at their eyes. I ran, reaching the hatch, my hand shaking as I gripped the lever again. The whispers were screaming now. "You'll never leave." My arm burned, the black veins reaching my shoulder. I saw my dad again, his face pale, fangs dripping blood, standing with the vampires. "You left me," he said, but it wasn't him. It was a trick, like the red eyes and the knife. I pulled the lever, and the hatch groaned, wind howling. The vampires lunged, but the air sucked them back, their claws scraping the walls. I strapped on the parachute, my fingers numb, and jumped into the storm. The cold bit my face, and the plane vanished above me, swallowed by clouds. I landed hard in snow, my arms screaming with pain. The black veins pulsed, and the whispers didn't stop. They were louder, chanting, "You're home." The snow crunched under my boots as I stumbled to the tundra. The parachute tangled in a tree behind me. The plane was gone, swallowed by the storm clouds, but the whispers hadn't stopped. They buzzed in my head, sharp and cold, like ice picks. "You're home," they kept saying over and over, until I wanted to scream just to drown them out. My arm burned, the black veins pulsing like they had a heartbeat of their own. They'd spread to my chest now, curling under my skin, forming words I could feel but not read. The sky above was dark, heavy with clouds that moved too fast, like they were watching me. I was freezing, my breath puffing out in red clouds. Red, not white like blood mist. My teeth ached, sharp against my tongue, and I didn't want to think about why. The scratch from the vampire in 13B felt alive, like it was digging deeper, whispering secrets I didn't want to know. I tripped over a rock, landing face first in the snow, and when I pushed up, my reflection stared back from a sheet of ice. My eyes glowed red, and my teeth, they were fangs, long and sharp, like the monsters on the plane. I screamed, scrambling back, but the reflection followed, laughing in the whisper's voice. Was I one of them now? I hadn't been bitten, just scratched, but the black veins were everywhere, crawling up my neck. I clawed at my arm, trying to rip them out, but my nails drew blood, thick, black, like the wax dripping from the vampire's mouths. The whispers laughed louder. "You can't fight the sky," they said. I saw my dad again, standing in the snow, his face pale, fangs dripping. "You left me," he said, but his voice was wrong, too deep, like it came from the clouds. I blinked, and he was gone, but the snow around me moved, swirling into shapes, claws, eyes, teeth. I ran, my legs heavy, the cold biting my skin. The tundra was empty, just snow and rocks, but it felt like a cage, like the plane all over again. The whispers were inside me now, in my blood, telling me to give in, to let the hunger take over. My stomach twisted, and I saw a rabbit, small and white, hopping nearby. I didn't mean to, but I lunged, my hands grabbing it before I could stop. Its blood was warm, and I drank, my fangs sinking in. I dropped it, horrified, spitting red into the snow. What was I becoming? I found a cave, a dark hole in a hill, and crawled inside, shaking. The walls were wet, glistening like the plane's bloody carpet. I curled up, trying to block out the whispers, but they were louder here, echoing off the stone. "The sky owns you," they said. My arm throbbed, and I saw the veins had formed words now. "You are mine." I screamed, my voice bouncing back, sounding like there's hiss, not human. The cave wasn't empty. Shapes moved in the dark. Pale figures, their eyes glowing red, their mouths dripping black wax. They were the passengers, the ones from the plane, but worse, their bodies twisted, arms too long, faces half melted. The guy from 13B stepped forward, his smile wide. "The pilot gave us the sky," he said, "and now you're at heart." I backed away, but the cave walls pulsed like a giant heartbeat, and the air burned my lungs. I grabbed a sharp rock, swinging at him, but he didn't flinch. The others hissed, closing in, and I saw my reflection in their eyes. Fangs, red eyes, black veins. I wasn't just scratched. The sky had chosen me, its curse sinking into my soul. I ran for cave's mouth, but the snow outside swirled into a face, huge, eyeless, with a mouth of storm clouds. It spoke, its voice the whispers. "You'll never leave."
If you're still breathing, congratulations. You survived another tale from Majesty Horror Story. But the nightmare doesn't end here. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and share this story, or she might pay you a visit tonight. Don't forget, they're watching who doesn't share. Sleep tight.